What Happened This Week podcast. Just two best friends chatting in the trailer about all the things you are thinking about. Because you never know with Kim and Tricia.
Hey guys, this week we're coming at you virtually. We are still at a stay-at-home order in our state of Florida. So I am at home and Tricia is at her home. And
Yes.
It's always a good time, right?
Yes, and I'm very pregnant, so it's hard for me to leave, so.
You're very pregnant. You are
Yes.
like ready to go pregnant.
Yes, very ready to go. I had a lot of pain last week. Finally went to the doctor. They finally got me in. That's been the hardest thing with this whole corona thing. It's not like, hey, something's not feeling right. Like, they don't rush you right in anymore. So I went on Thursday, and Friday I was supposed to be 32 weeks, but on Thursday I was measuring 34 weeks.
So you're a little further along than you thought.
Yeah, or the baby's just bigger. I don't know. I go back tomorrow for ultrasound and to see my high-risk specialist. So we'll definitely know more then. I was jolted from sleep last night by massive contractions.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, it was it was 4. I remember it was 4:42 a.m. because I told Jason, I was like, you need to remember this time. That's when it ended. That's when the pain finally ended. And I said, you need to remember this time. So when the next one starts, you can remember what time this one ended, you know?
Oh my gosh.
And it went on until about 7 this morning. And then I finally was able to fall back asleep till 8, and just smaller ones today throughout the day. So the doctor said if I have more than 4 in an hour, I have to go to the hospital. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well then we might be having a baby quicker than we think, huh?
That's it. It freaked me. This week has freaked me out. So just about everything is ready to go. Our bassinet wasn't supposed to be here until June 1st. So Jason called and had that moved up. We made sure we got the car seat out of storage. Washed all the clothes, packed our hospital bag because I was like, man, if my water breaks, what do we do? We don't have the hospital bag packed. So at least we are better at that.
Right. You've had a couple tries at it, so that's good.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of crazy because we had to cancel the baby shower because of the whole coronavirus, which makes complete sense because we don't want people, you around people and then, being exposed to you. And then as well as, even after the baby comes, we're going to have to wait a little bit because, again, we don't want any exposure to the baby and you. So, and they're what is it? I think it's 6 to 8 weeks after they're born, maybe longer, that they're not really supposed to be around anyone.
I think it's at least 6 weeks because I think that's when they start their first set of shots.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't know. So, but yeah, that's kind of been it's just been really crazy. So I stayed home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from work. The pain started Tuesday pretty bad, and so that was just crazy. I just couldn't believe it. I never had this with the other two, so it was definitely kind of strange. And we'll hopefully everybody I know. So Jason's cousin, she had her baby last week, and she was 4 weeks early.
It was different. I have to say, last week when you were here, it was so much different doing the podcast because I could see you and talk to you. And it's so much different doing it when I'm staring at my computer or looking out the window chatting. So it's a very, it's a very different dynamic. It's much better when we're together, it feels, but
exactly. I'm looking around going man, somebody should have picked that up or cleaned that up around here.
No, it gives you time to think about it.
Exactly.
So I guess the good news is the baby's a little further along than you expected. So that could be in your favor or his favor.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a good sign. So I might be getting a call this week that I'm going to be at the hospital recording another podcast, huh? You never know.
You're not allowed at the hospital.
Oh, that's right. Is Jason allowed in the room?
Yeah, Jason will be there. But I did think my thought is if my water breaks or whatever, I go into labor, I'm in the hospital, we could totally do this and do a bonus episode.
We could totally do a bonus episode, and we'll do it. We'll put it in Day Drinking Moms, and then we'll definitely have it as an extra bonus. I like that.
Yeah.
I might have to do a lot of edits if you are in a lot of pain and you're saying, not that you would be cursing up a storm, but you just never know. You never know what kind of state you're going to be in.
I mean, I do plan on getting an epidural, so, and that
That's right.
fact was this morning when those pains were so bad, I was like, oh yeah, definitely getting that epidural again.
Heck yeah. Well, I have to say I'm a little late tonight because, we have our house on the market.
Yeah.
And we've had our house on the market on Monday, and we have had, I think now, a total of 8 showings. And it has been, as you know, it's been, you had to go through this before. We had a scheduled showing today at 11 o'clock, which was fine. And then we got home from that because we're loaded up the dogs and we're exploring, new places. It was raining all day, so we couldn't go for a walk. And then at after I ordered subs from Publix, we got another message that somebody else wanted to come see the house. And so we literally had to go eat at a park. With the
Very
dogs.
romantic.
Well, Taylor was with us, and I'm like, Taylor's like, I love you guys, but we've had a lot of family time lately between quarantine. But we actually went over to Sandspread, and actually, crazy enough, some of the parks are open around here. And we went to Sandspread, and there was actually the boat ramp was open, but there was a cop that was sitting at the gate monitoring people coming in and out. So
yeah, the boat ramps have been open.
Yeah, I just thought that they were opened on the weekdays and then on the weekends to commercial fishermen. I didn't realize they were open to the public. Granted, it was a rainy day today, so there may not have been as much people out in the public because of crappy weather.
Right.
But I just know, some of the the federal parks, like the state parks, those are closed, which we have a few around here. But the regular parks were open, so it's been definitely an experience. Having to keep your house clean 24/7. On Friday, I had 2 I keep calling them closings. I need to stop saying closings.
You want them to close.
I want them to close. We had 2 showings on Friday, and it was just me. So I had to literally go, and I was at a conference it was more of a all-day conference that I had to attend. So I was literally on my phone listening to a conference, walking the dogs. We walked twice. So it's been an ordeal. So I'm just it's stressful time, it's exciting. And then, I have the Ring app so I can hear people leaving the house or coming up to the house so I can hear some of their feedback. Some of it's good. Some of it's not so good. And I try not, and then we have people fill out the feedback form. So we have people that kind of comment on what they liked and what they didn't like about the place. And it's a little disheartening because, it's your home, right? And you think it's great.
It's personal.
You do. And so I had to remind myself not to read them to James because he's just screw it.
Especially it's James's house, he purchased before y'all got, so he picked this house,
Right.
I take things so personal and Jason doesn't. So we had our baby monitor when we were selling the house because we had just had Reagan, and the baby monitor was there. You could hear the whole thing, and it was what are you talking about? That's not true.
Seriously. So it's been a little and it's just tiring to just drive around, and it's just an emotional roller coaster. So who knows to see what the week's going to happen. When we did have one that came yesterday, and he is requested to come back again tomorrow because his wife wasn't able to make it yesterday, and he really likes the place. So we'll see. So that's promising. And we went and looked at a place this weekend in an air park because James now wants to be a pilot. We don't own a plane, but we're gonna go live in an air park,
or have a pilot's license,
But hey, we're gonna pull the trigger and go pay to go live because they have an HOA to have access to an airstrip. And I'm like, okay. So we did that. That was, we almost pulled the trigger. We almost put an offer in. It's a huge house, huge house, something that I couldn't even ever foresee myself ever being in it, to the point of where James was like, our whole house could sit in this living room. It's how big this house is. A lot of secret doorways. I think the kids would have a heyday playing hide and go seek. The pool was huge. The hangar, I guess is what you call it, was huge. But it would come to find out it's wood frame. So what James is really wanting to push for a CBS, which makes sense in Florida, right? You have to, if you're going to do it, that's typically, if you're going to buy, that's typically what you want to buy. Not that a wood frame doesn't do it, but insurance is cheaper. And so that was kind of a letdown. So now every house that we look at, we're like, it's not like that one at the air park. So that's going to be a little
list of you ever watch like House Hunters, and it's like, is it in the area? Does it, like, so you all have like your list, and like CVS is one of them, and like you can't change CVS, and you can't change location. Like you could
Mhm.
change other things on your list that are must-haves, like like cosmetically you could change, but those two you can't change.
No, and I have to tell you, it's crazy enough is Jody, who's helping us out. She sent me
Mhm.
a screenshot and gave me advice on how to determine if a house is a CBS or not,
Mhm.
based upon how the windows sit. So that's been really nice because now when I'm even looking at pictures, I can tell because sometimes it's not always in the listing until
Mhm.
even, typically it is with at the MLS at the realtor level, but initially I just kind of like to look out there and see what I can find. Then I reach out to
Right.
Shannon if there's anything. So I kind of have a little trick now, which is nice to see that, so I can kind of make that determination. But I told James, it's everything's will work out the way it's supposed to work out. So if this place sells, which is great, we're going to be staying in a camper, and we've secured or verbally secured a spot at a RV park for June. So
Mhm.
at least we have that as an option. So it's been a kind of a crazy whirlwind of a week. You have strangers walking in your home. It is Corona
Mhm.
time. It's a whole nother layer. People are walking in with masks, and it's which is good. And we come home and we, spray Lysol and all the door handles and everything, and it's just your house is always clean. And it's always going to be picked up. And I'm a clean freak, but it's even at that point, it's like I'm a little over it. But you know what? That's what we have to do. This is what we signed
I
up for.
know. I remember getting to the end of it and being like, "Oh, we have something to see," and I'm like, "Ugh, they better buy it." Like it was such an annoyance because one of us had to go home, get the dogs, drive them around. Like it was just like, if we didn't have the dogs and we were at work, it would have probably been like, oh, whatever, of course they can go see it. But yeah, the dogs. Finally got to the point it was like somebody, because it said, like 24 hours, and it was like, oh, well, I want to go see it like in an hour. And it was somebody, and I was like, listen, I can't get my dogs out. Like, it's just not possible. Like, I'm going to, I have a meeting. Jason had a meeting. Like, my mom can't do it. Like, we cannot get the dogs out. And so showed it a couple times with our dogs there.
Really, I think I would be
But
scared
our
with
dogs
my
were, but our dogs were crated.
Okay, that's a little different. Yeah, so that would be way
Mm-hmm.
easier. It is a luxury right now, me working from home, so I'm very flexible when it comes to that. I'm walking more often, which is probably a good thing.
Exactly.
But controlling two dogs on a leash that have never really been leash dogs, it's a little tough. So but I'm managing. But yeah, definitely, like I told James, I'm like, this could be the one. This could be the one, So let's just
Mm-hmm.
suck it up and let's just go and
Be
eat our
happy about
lunch.
it.
Yes, let's go be happy about it. Eat our lunch at the park while it's thundering and lightning underneath
Yeah.
a pavilion. So, but yeah,
So
so it's been
we closed on our loan on Friday, so we could start this week on building our house.
woohoo. So did you
Woo!
guys? So you're gonna start? Well, you've already started clearing it out, right?
Yes. So now we have this week we're focusing on filter, and there's some like we've already started clearing out like all the small trees and like the essentially like the drop area for. I mean, heavy equipment has to come in there. Concrete trucks got to come in. They got to put the trusses somewhere before they set them. All this stuff. So we had like a staging area that we cleared all out, burn a bunch of stuff, bunch of burn piles. But there's some really big pine trees and some other really big trees that we have to rent another tractor for. Our tractor's just not big enough for these. I mean, these trees are huge to take out. So we're going to rent that tractor to get the trees out, and then bring the dirt in the next day, and then get all the the fill dirt for the house pad, frame up for the foundation, and then I'll be ready to pour slab.
Whoop whoop.
Uh,
It's definitely been a time in coming. So I know that it's kind of an exciting time with the baby coming, and it's going to be a stressful time too with everything. So I'm sure Jason's going to be doing that a lot on the weekends too, helping his dad, and
oh
so
yeah,
that's going to
100%.
be a different time. But the end
Yeah.
game is always you got to keep your eye on the prize, right? As I always say.
Yeah. Well, I picked out all my tile from my bathrooms. Works out really well. I can, from my bed, I go on the app, like the Lowe's app, and I was like, oh, I like this, and then I'd buy it at the store, and Jason would go pick it up and bring it home to me, like one piece. And
Oh,
so,
nice.
yeah, and I found this, like, because I'm budget friendly, I want to stay within my budget lines. I don't want to get into like, oh, well, we can move money from this line item to that line item, and then all of a sudden, like, it's just not enough money. So, so far my tile budget is like $2,500 under budget. So that's
Nice.
yeah.
That's good. That gives you some wiggle room. It's funny. We found a house over, where was it? It was, I don't understand how this happened, but as I was talking to James, it does make sense, is that I think it was maybe in Sebastian, but it was a beautiful horse barn, and they built this beautiful barn, and then it was plans to build a home. And I said, well, what happened? Like, he said, they ran out of money. He said, they built this beautiful horse barn, and then they ran out of money. They had pulled the permits and everything to build this house. And so I was like, well, how does that so much quickly happen? I figured you budget for it, but if you're probably not watching it, and if you overspend on certain things, then I could see how quickly you can go over budget real quick.
And those horse barns are expensive. There's a property across the street from us, like Catty Corner. And it is 10 acres, like, and it's only horse barn. There's not a house on that rig, and it is for sale for like $1.3 million.
No doubt. It is. I truly believe that, because we've been even just looking at, because usually when you start getting into looking at, more than 2 acres, typically there is some type of barn on the property. And we've seen like these horse stalls. I'm like, we don't got a horse. I'm like, we'll have some chickens, will have a badass place to sleep in. But I'm like, I can't believe the money that there's a lot. It's a very expensive hobby. It's a lifestyle, really. It's a very expensive lifestyle. So I could see how, if you don't budget correctly, and how, if you're not watching it, how you could probably go over budget. But if coming under budget's good, because then you can maybe splurge on a design or splurge on a black stat or something.
Exactly. So that's it. So it was like, certain things, like there's this beautiful back door that I want, but it's pretty expensive, and it's like, if there's extra money, then I can get my door.
Right.
Or, I feel like we're like on Fixer Upper, like Joey Gaines, like, so you have $2,500 left. I can either do this pergola for you, I can ramp up the entryway, or I can whatever. Like, what do you want to spend the money on? But so we have a list of like, if there's extra money, like a whole house generator, or that door that I want, like things like that. And then when you put it into perspective like that, I was like, the door would be nice, but the door we're going to have, I'm sure, is going to be beautiful anyway. So I'd rather have a whole house generator, You go through one hurricane with no power. Listen, you give up probably just about anything for a whole house generator.
Heck yeah. And I mean, that's a huge selling point too. If you ever go to a resale to have that, I've noticed that a few homes that we've been looking at either have their propane tank buried, or they have the generator. So that's a huge plus. That's always something that you're always looking at for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. So we're just hoping. So hopefully we'll be able to come back next week and maybe say we have an offer. I mean, we would still have to have someone come through and, inspect the place and, look it over. And I'd hate to review that with James. I'm like, tell them they ain't selling the house. And I'm like, because, it's an insult, you kind of feel that way maybe. So hopefully next week we'll do that, and then we'll be pulling in the pod and we'll be loading that sucker up and we'll be hitting into the camper. I don't know. I love my family and all, but we've quarantined a lot together, and I've learned to not cook as much, or not cook. I do cook, and I'm learning to make new meals, and I made a really bad one tonight, so I'm a little down.
What'd you make?
I don't even know what the heck it was. It was supposed to be chicken pot pie pasta. The pasta wasn't cooked all the way. James was
you had like crunchy, but not crunchy, but like tough pasta.
Yeah, but I told him it was bow tie pasta. I thought it was supposed to be a little firm. He started laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, Gil. And then the problem is when we were showing this house, it was an in between. Like if I had timed it properly, because I had crock potted the stuff, because I'm a big crock potter, and it interrupted it because I didn't want to have it. The aroma might have been great for some, but not for all. So I had to delay cooking. So it put us to like 7:30 at night to eat, which is late for us to eat.
Gotcha.
So then I was trying to rush to make the pasta. So it was just, it's just, but I don't know. I will not be making that again. It had peas, and corn, and chicken, and cream cheese in it. I mean, I don't think I put it on a plate. It should have been on a bowl. It was just a hot mess. I said, I will not be making this one again. Taylor's like,
Maybe
if it
with
was
like a rice, it would have been better because a rice like might like soak up the flavors more so than the pasta.
yeah, and I have a lot left over. So I said, I'm going to be repurposing this. I have to figure out how to do it. I thought about maybe buying a pie crust and putting it in
I
a
was
pie
just gonna say
crust.
that. Yeah, like take
Maybe
it and make
that.
it as your filling.
Yeah, maybe that, or like even throw like biscuits on top of it or something. It's a whole pot, so I've got to repurpose it. But anyway, so I'm ready to be one with the world again. That's for sure. And we still don't know when we're going to be able to leave our homes. I'm hearing that a lot of states are lifting the bans. I heard Georgia,
Yeah.
they're now they lifted. They got hair salons, they have nail salons, tattoo places, and bowling alleys. Which of all things, bowling alleys just kind of floors me that actually got stated in it. Because bowling alleys, that's more than 10 people.
Yeah, a whole lot of bowling in Georgia, apparently. That's their thing.
Well, that was a staple item, apparently. That was made the top 4. I was like, wow.
You listen, we gotta have good nails, good hair, and bowling alleys, all right?
Seriously.
You can't
I think
go
they're
get
going
your
to,
nails done and your hair did and got nowhere to go.
yeah, but then you're putting your finger in the hole in the bowling ball. I was like, that's just gross. It's gross regardless who you are, now that I think about it. But it's another thing when we're going through this corona epidemic, But and like North Carolina, I think my mom's state's lifting up. So but kind of crickets on the set for our governor. So in one respect, I wish that it was that way. I wish they would. But then, what's life going to look like? And the social distancing. Are people really going to honor that? And I think I think the majority of people will. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I know I'm over it, but the reality is, would I be a little bit more hesitant to go somewhere now if they opened it? I think I would. Would you?
Yeah, I mean, like, our house has already decided that nothing's really going to change whether they open it up or not. Like, we won't, like, if restaurants open, we're not going,
Yeah.
Like, we'll continue, like, we do takeout. We try to do takeout twice a week. We do support our local restaurants, things. But as far as, like, going and eating somewhere, even if it's open or we're not going to a bar at this point, but any of that, like, it's just not something we're going to do yet.
Well, there's a bar in town. They opened up for takeout, but they also opened up for takeout drinks. I know we talked about a local bar down by you doing it. But I was telling James, I'm like, what's the purpose of going in and getting a margarita to go? I'm like, I could
buy it.
I could go buy the mix for way cheaper. I don't understand that. I'm not missing out. I feel like I could buy a handle bottle of Tito's, and I can make my own Moscow mules for way cheaper than going and get a takeout. I don't know.
I would say yes. I would say that like it was nice because Jason got that draft beer, which that obviously you couldn't get at a store, or like Charlie's Rum Runners. Like not that we got those because they're like mind erasers, but we you couldn't make that. I don't know if they put in that stuff, but
no. Well, yeah, craft beers are like a staple drink, but just to go and buy, something that you can make at home, I just don't see that. So it's going to be very interesting what it looks like when things start to open up. So I'm very hesitant as well. I just don't know. It's creeping. It's like, where do you go? How do you go? I mean, they've canceled school for the rest of the year. So for some kids, that's great. Some kids not, So it's just definitely going to be a different time. And, right now too, it's, we're spending more time with our families, and we're learning how to social distance and be more involved in a home setting. So, one of the interesting things is like friends, like not being able to see your friends. And for the most part, I feel like I'm a homebody. I don't really, I've had friends and come and go in my life, but I've had few that have stayed, and I feel like you have acquaintances that you meet, and then you have friends that you meet, and they're friends like you and I become family. And I truly believe that I've seen, sometimes I envy people who have several friends. I mean, I know people that have multiple friends on multiple different levels, and it just seems like they're very social and they have all these friends. And I feel like I'm, for the most part, a very friendly person. I'm an approachable person. I'll approach you first. Like, I'm very chatty catty. But I realize that, I'm not that way all the time. And I true to my friends, the ones I can count on my hand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I do envy those who do have multiple friends, but then I think to myself, of those real genuine conversations or those
Right.
genuine friendships, you know, how genuine can they really be, and how loyal are those friendships, you know? It's a struggle once you hit a certain age to make friends, I think. Don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I think too, like, time is such a constraint when you have like your family and then like to meet new people. Because I have like what I feel like is my base friend. I have you, I have, like these people in my life that are my base friends, that those are it. And then I have two sisters. I mean, they're built-in friends, and I have two sister-in-laws. And so, I mean, between just my sisters and my sister-in-laws and you, I got five friends right there. Like, find me like there's only 4 weekends in a month. Like it's hard just
It
to even
is.
find time to meet up with people. I try maintaining some of my friendships by like coffee in them, like before this started happening, like, hey, let's meet for coffee, because I felt like we were always meeting for drinks. And I was like,
Right.
maybe we should try to meet for coffee. And yeah, we tried that a couple times and then this happened. But and it's like I want to be friends with some other people, like the woman who her daughter goes to school with, Reagan, has had this baby, like super nice couple. But it's so everyone's so busy, so it would be like, oh, we should get the kids together and like we can hang out. But life is so busy; it's hard to find the time.
It is. And I think too, it's a stage in your life, right? Because, you know, when you have kids that are like aged, that makes it really easier for you to connect with them, right? Because then you're in a stage in your life that, you know, warrants you to have friends that have younger children, you know? And I think it's easier to be friends with someone who has a child the same age, because you have something in common and you can share war
Right.
stories, or, if you're dealing with this, you can bounce ideas off of somebody. And so that makes it a lot easier to have those relationships. You know, I have to say, I've had probably the past 2 months, I have a certain Karen that I have really tried to connect with. I've seen this person a good amount of time. And just, it's just real hard to connect to this person where I find like, I have these conversations, or I try to involve these people in a conversation, and they'll like literally walk away. And
Uh-uh.
which is like, geez, you know, it's subtle, but I notice it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so it's very hard to sometimes think, well, why am I not likable? You know, or I'm pretty open-minded, friendly. I'm not, I'm not introvert, I'm extrovert for sure. And maybe I'm come off a little like, I don't know, over the top sometimes, I think, but
I
I
mean,
don't
I don't
know.
think I've ever met anybody who didn't like you. Like, that's odd to me. Like,
Yeah, and so I just struggle sometimes like with that. I'm not struggle this particular Karen. It's just like,
mm-hmm.
wow, like, why don't you like me? Like, I'm gonna call her out one day. Um
Yeah, like, what did I do to you?
right. But then you know what happens is, because that person acts that way, I then start thinking that they're a snob, or
Right.
they're someone who's not approachable. This person doesn't have resting bitch face, which is typically what a lot of people who I have come in contact with that do, but they really just have that face. They're probably the best. They
Mm-hmm.
are the best person in the entire world. I mean, when you get to know them, and you always have that, resting bitch face. Oh, she's not approachable. But then when you get to
I
talk to
got
them, they
resting
are.
bitch face. I got
You,
resting bitch face.
you think? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten better at it, but I think so. And I don't, and it by no means am I ever like snobby, or I'm just shy, which most people who know me might be like, what? You're not shy. But no, I mean, if I don't know you, like I usually let somebody else lead the conversation. Like I'm not a leader in the conversation. Um, and I'm always thinking, like trying to like okay, like make sure I don't embarrass myself, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, so I think I end up with resting bitch face.
I could see that. I mean, I think you're a little bit more shyer when it comes to conversations. I think that's why you and I work so well, because if we could put ourselves in an environment that we're both not familiar with, then I kind of take the lead, because it's just my strength,
Mm-hmm.
that, having those conversations. But then you're more intellect, so you can have that side of the conversation with people. So it's a little bit more upsetting when someone who's kind of blatantly being that way to me. It's enough that I'm having this conversation with you. You know what I mean? Normally, if I wasn't bothering, I'd be like, whatever, I've, plenty of fish in the sea kind of thing. Because I feel like while I don't have many friends that I call close, I feel like I have a lot of acquaintances where I can connect with someone and say, hey, it's been a while, I haven't seen you. And, I've always been able to make friends easily or make conversation easily because somehow, some way I can connect with people, whether it's whatever it may be. I try to have those conversations. So I just have to, I think being at 40 years old and when you're in a different time in your life, and maybe that's where it is sometimes, I think, is that maybe I don't want to say lifestyle because I'm not a swinger or nothing. I don't know. But, when your lifestyle doesn't align with them, maybe, I don't know, like if they just, I don't know. So I just really struggle with people with that particular situation. At the norm, though, I have to think there's all shoes and, I always say there's all makes and models of people, right? And not everyone's going to be like you. And not everyone's going to think like you. And that's okay, because that's what makes us all different and unique. And maybe I'm a little over the top, and maybe you don't want to necessarily socialize with me, but don't be rude. Don't just snub me off, because then now you're going to put me in a place where now I don't want to be around you or be around the environment, which is not good either. So yeah, it's just a real struggle, I think, with meeting friends because where do you meet them at? I mean, we're moms.
Well, that's it. Like, think about it. Like, you like in elementary school, friends were easy. You guys were locked in one classroom all day, and then in, middle school and high school, like you would see the same kids over and over and over again, and so being friends was easier. And then like you go into the real world, and yes, I guess you meet friends at work. But I remember when I worked at this one place, and it was like a much bigger company, like 2,500 employees. And in my department, there were like 40 people. So, I mean, it was like being in a classroom. My department had 40 people, and there were probably 100 people on my floor. And so it was like being in middle school, or in elementary school. There's each classroom is a department or whatever. And it made it a lot easier to make friends. And now, I mean, where I'm at now, I mean, there's only 5 of us there and nice people. I just don't know that outside of our office that we have anything in common besides doing insurance. So we aren't friends,
Right. And I think being friends with people at work too, there's a little fine line there. Only because you never want to mix business and pleasure. And I think sometimes people tend to get a little too comfortable in the relationship on a personal level. They don't know how to shut it down, and they'll bring it into the workplace. And then that can just be a whole nother level of issue.
Exactly.
So, you definitely don't, like you said, so you want to be very cautious of those relationships. Not that it's a negative thing. It's just, you want to be very careful, because you never know what could be said or done on the outside. And then it comes into the workplace, and that could be bad, or it could be good. It just really depends, And I think too, is that, when you are trying to meet people, like you said, like you're in high school, you're in middle school, you meet people, and then you tend to grow apart. And then how do you connect with people? Typically it's your spouses, right? Your spouses have friends that you married them, and they have friends. So they come to the table with a whole nother level of friends, or another layer of friends, so you have that. You usually have family, because your family's intermingle. So that has another layer of friends. It's, they have all these dating apps, but they don't have no friend apps. They should,
They do have a friend app. So like I read this book one time. That's what it was about. It was like this book. This girl was going on like a friendship date every day. Yeah, it was a really good book. Like trying to like essentially like how to make friends as an adult. She had moved from a few different cities, and she was finally in Chicago and like trying to make new friends. And that's what there are like friendship apps.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, I mean, probably in bigger areas. Obviously, old Stuart, Florida doesn't have one, but like in bigger cities like Chicago, New York, ways for people to meet up and make friends.
That's a good idea. I mean, that's I wish I would have thought about that. I would have tried to make some money on that. I would have matched up people having a good time. Another thing is like, what do you do when you're friends with someone and their spouse and they get a divorce? Not that we're in this situation. I'm just saying hypothetically. Like, that's a tough thing, right?
It's really tough. It's almost like you got to pick a side, and sometimes divorces aren't that way, and they're easier, like you're divorced, like, I think, like, you guys didn't care, like, friend wise or whatever. And obviously, as time goes on, I mean, certainly I'm calling Joe up or whatever, like, hey, how's it going? But I mean, friendly enough when I see him,
Right.
So, but I mean, sometimes these things end in a terrible, terrible way. And it's like, whoa, slap you in the face. But we've had that happen. Even Jason and I, with like people who gotten divorced or getting divorced, and it's like, man, like, it's a clear line as to where you stand.
Right. And it's tough because, maybe if that person was wrong, who was your friend, but that person did something wrong, but yet you want to have a loyalty to that person. But then you knew that other person was a jerk face, and that's probably why that happened.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, it's a hard line. It's really hard. So I think sometimes those friendships dissolve or not as what they used to be because of something like that. And that person then becomes single, and then they're going off and making new friends because, again, it goes back to your lifestyle, and it goes back to what you're into at that time of your life. I mean, when you're married and you're doing things as a married couple, it's really tough to have a single friend. Not that it's not entirely impossible, because it is. I think it is, but it's just tough because then that single friend can try to persuade you into the lion's den, because I was that single friend, and I know what I would do, and I'd say, come on, let's go get in trouble tonight. So it's hard. It really is hard. So it goes back to just the stage of your life and where you're at, and what friendships are most important. I think where you're valued. If sometimes relationships and friendships can be one-way streets. And you have to pick and choose that, because you have to think, is this worth it? Is there a lot more time and effort being put into a relationship? You and I have had that conversation about our past friendships that we've had,
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I mean, we've spoken about this, you and I together, about a particular friend that we have. And I finally told you, I'm like, Kim, you have to stop being upset by this. Like, you either have to accept this person for who they are, or you need to move on. Like, stop being upset by the person doing the same behavior that they're constantly doing. Either accept it and say that's who they are, and don't be disappointed when they don't show up when they said they were going to show up, or just move on with your friendship. It doesn't have to be like a massive breakup, but you can just fizzle out, but you have to stop being upset by it.
Yes, it's very true. And I think that goes along with just friendships and relationships in general too. Sometimes we set expectations on how this relationship should be. How this relationship should be. And even with our spouses, I think that happens. Or even in your relationship with your children. This is this is going to be the expectation, and this is how it's all going to be, the yellow brick road. Right. And then when it doesn't happen that way, it's a huge letdown. And that's hard, because it's, it's like a pride thing. It's like, man, I put so much effort into this. And, it's just like, you're right. That particular person just wasn't bringing her A game. And if she was bringing her C game, I don't even know what game she was bringing, but she just didn't show up.
Ultimately for you had to decide what was acceptable to you and not, and it was just not acceptable any longer to you.
Right. Yeah,
and that's it. Just, you just shut it down, and just, and it fizzled out. And, it wasn't that you didn't love this person anymore as your friend, or any of those memories made with that friend were any less. It's just come to a time in life when you needed something else out of the friendship, something more solid, right. At least for yourself. And that's what you found acceptable. And so, it was hurt. It would hurt me when I'd see you be hurt by this. Like, and I'm like, stop being hurt. Like, this is how it goes. And so you either have to accept that or not,
I know. And
this person wasn't doing anything terrible. It just was something that wasn't working,
No. And it was just different priorities were aligned. I think that just different, and I think that goes to people just being very convicted in their own opinions, or their own ways and structure of life and doing things. And if it doesn't fit into their world, it doesn't matter to them. And where, that's painful, that's hurtful, especially when you try to put time and effort into a relationship, and you realize, you're not making any strides. It's not getting any better. It's the same thing every day. And, at some point you just have to cut your ties. But if they're family, you got to be friendly with them. So there's no way of doing that,
Yes.
But if they're friends, you got to keep them. So with their family, you got to maintain that relationship. It's a whole nother level of difference there. But yeah, it just sucks that with friendships that, it's just hard, making friends and keeping friends, because it seems like people are, just doing life, and I think as people get older too, it's the hobbies that people enjoy. Like people RV together, they motorcycle together, they
Right.
bike together. Like those are like, they're like in the same clubs,
Well, and I think you have to also, like, when you have your friends, like, you're my best friend, right? And so, but it doesn't mean we do everything together. There's some, like, I don't want to go mudding, Kim. Sorry, I don't want to go. It's not really, I don't want to camp dirty. Like, I don't mind getting dirty. I just don't want to go camping dirty, you know?
Right,
I like to take a shower if I get nasty dirty. It's just not my style. And you have different friends for that. That's cool with me, you know? Like, you
right,
don't have to have like your person, like you're my person. You don't have like it doesn't mean that we're doing every single thing and enjoy every single thing that wants to be done. Now, it's your birthday, and you said, Tricia, for my birthday, I really want to go mutton, but whatever, Kim, my God, let's go, you know? But it
right,
doesn't mean that like you would go and you're like, hey, we're gonna go do this, and you wouldn't invite me because I don't want to go and my feelings wouldn't be hurt. Like go have
right,
fun,
right.
girl. Tell me about it.
That's
Hey, we'll talk about it on the podcast on Sunday.
God, yeah, no joke. I think I'm too old for that now. We were talking about this weekend, and I said, geez, we have to keep leaving the house all the time. I said, why don't we just go up to River Ranch, ride the four wheeler? And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm too old for that now. And James was like, why? And I said, because my thumb hurts having to control the four wheeler the whole time, and my back starts. Your back starts. So I'm like, I think 40, because I'll be 41 in May. I think 41 was my cutoff. I don't know if I said, I want a side by side. I think this, one on one on a four wheeler. Yeah, just not kicking it too much anymore. I want to be able to push the gas with my foot.
Girl, I'll get you some Truly. You'll be riding that four wheeler in no time.
I know, but I'll be honest, my finger starts to hurt. It's like my thumb gets cramped up. I don't need to be. Give me a Truly. I'll definitely get on there and take it for a little whirl. But I think as I get older, like long term, like let's go hit the woods. Let's get a side. Yeah, golf cart is more, or golf cart or side by side is gonna be more my speed. So,
Exactly. Yeah, but my mom used to say like that friend, or she still says it, but friends, they're your friends for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. And like one friend could meet different categories, a season and a reason, or a lifetime and a reason, or just one of them. And that always like, especially being girls and now being women, your feelings get hurt. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I don't even know what it was or what friend it was, probably in high school or probably middle school, it probably was more likely when she told me this. But just being upset about something, some stupid girl stuff. And my mom telling me that, and something I've held on to since then, and trying to like when a relationship with a friend ends, or it's just kind of going on, like taking that friendship in a positive way and figuring out, what category it fits in. And then being thankful for it.
That's true. I tell Taylor that even, at 16 years old. I mean, girls are just mean. And I told her it gets no better, because when they're 40, they're just as mean. And when they're 60, they're just as awful, because at that point, they should know better, but they still don't, because they're old enough to know better. They still act like that. I'm like,
60, they just don't give a, like, whatever. I don't need to be friends with nobody no more.
Exactly. No filter. Just say what they want and don't care about any hurt anyone's feelings, because they're so set in their ways. So I think that, you're right. As girls, as we're in elementary school, middle school, and high school, we want to be liked. I mean, I think that's pretty. And, for someone who says, well, I don't care if someone likes me, that's a lie, because I think you do. Deep down inside, you do care. You do care what people think about you, and you do want to be liked. I, deal with that all the time, thinking, when I'm getting snubbed or get a wrong, like, why don't they like me? And I sometimes find myself having to try harder. And then I'm like, you know what? Step it back a little bit, because why care? Because I do care, So there's
a few people that I know that I just truly don't care if they like me or not. I think I've got to see certain people to where it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to be your friend. I don't want to be your friend. I have plenty of other friends. I truly don't care. Like, it was and not that like it's mean by any means. It's just like, I just don't care if that person likes me or not. And I'm not like,
how do you get
being nasty.
No, but how do you get to that point? Because I need that. I need to have that in my...
I think it was just broken so many times, and I was like, I'm done being broken by it. And so I had to finally come to terms with this person, these people, and they're not even a group of people, the same people. It was like 2 or 3 people, and it's been over a very long course of time. So it could have been at different stages in my life, but that it was just like these people just didn't make a difference. It didn't make it like they didn't make a difference in my happiness. So why am I giving them the power to make me uncomfortable or make me sad or make me upset? So if they weren't making a difference in my happiness, then I'm not giving them the power over anything else.
That's good. I like it.
So,
That's true.
mhm.
That is very true. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, what are they contributing to you? Because they really don't care what you think.
No.
They're not losing sleep over you at night.
No, they don't care about themselves. Everybody does.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's definitely something I should probably take those words for wisdom, because our words of wisdom, because I definitely find myself putting myself out there on the likable pole. Just like me, love me, embrace me, be my best friend, and but don't get me wrong, there have been a few, and you know who they are, that I've said, kick her to the road. She's done. Out of my book, done.
Yeah.
There's been a few, but it's taken me to that point. But that's been over the course of time. But I still will even play a friend to their face, because I have to be. But I don't play that resting bitch face well. I need to practice that.
Do you ever see like somebody that you don't care for, and you're like, all right, I can't let it show on my face, and like I feel like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so it's really hard for me to put on a fake face.
Yes.
I'm really like trying to smile the whole way. And I'm like, they can see right through this.
Yes, absolutely. I think the worst thing is social media, when you see someone who you don't necessarily care for, and they get a little convicted in their ways on Facebook, and they say things, and it's just like, oh, really? Like it just, it kind of validates your reason why you don't necessarily care for that person. And that goes way back to like elementary. So
is that where you send me a screenshot?
Oh yeah. There's some deets. There's some. But see, well, the ones I've written off for life, like the ones that I would never bat an eye at, they go back to like middle school and elementary school. That is because it's deep seated. I think it's deep seated. As an adult, I'm like, okay, whatever. But some of it's just deep seated. It could have been the way the person, what they say. You can say things, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel, or however that saying goes.
Right.
Even at that elementary and middle school level, words hurt. The words hurt now, but they were hurt really then. And so, as people, forgive and forget, we're adults, it was just stupidness. But I feel like that's your character then. That totally could be your character now. You have those, you still have it in you to be a jerk. But, they're definitely the ones I send you a screenshot of. It's like, really? Those are very comical, I have to say. They keep me going. So that's for sure. Or keep us going, I guess, right?
100%. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad that we got to talk about friends, because I feel like we need friends right now. We don't have any because we can't see them. No. But I think when we get out in the world again, I think, some people are having that lonely feeling of not having friends right now, or not being able to connect with friends or make new friends right now. But there's also some boundaries that to be set on friendships, and it's okay not to have to be friends with everyone, and it's okay to have that, set amount of friends, because then you feel like you have to spread your time so thin, and especially when we got family and stuff, it's tough. So I'm glad we kind of got to chat about it, because it's a topic some people like to talk about, and some people are just like, I don't know if I really want to talk about that. So I'm glad we got to chat about it.
Exactly. So, and don't forget, guys, we record on Sunday for Friday, so we are talking about this whole baby thing. Like, if this baby comes this week, then we'll discuss that on like a podcast that might drop before this one. So
right, and if necessary, if anything, we do, if we have to, we can always push it back a week or so. So, I will try to get into the delivery room, or I will try to be somewhere on the phone. I don't think I'll be able to get, I know I won't be able to get in the delivery room.
They're not letting you in the hospital.
They're not letting me in the damn Corona. If it wasn't for Corona, I might have had a chance. Exactly. They got that place on lockdown, but we'll definitely, if anything, we'll just, while you're doing while you're breathing, I'll just say, Jason, ask her this question. Got it. And Jason can speak for you. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, I haven't ruled out the laughing gas, so that could be.
Yes, that's right. I want to see. Maybe I could take one of my dog's pain pills so I can be on the same level as you. Maybe that would make for a good show. No, actually, I'll just have a couple of Trulies, and then we'll just make it a hot mess. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned next week.